Be me, 26-year-old feminist. Roommate suddenly moves out. Can't afford rent alone. Only candidate is some nice guy programmer. Convinced he's hiding something. All men are toxic. I'll prove it. Let him move in anyway. So, here's the deal, anons. Working as a marketing coordinator in this overpriced city. Been living with my female roommate Sarah for what feels like forever. Everything was perfect until one random day she drops the bomb. Tells me she's moving in with her boyfriend. Gives me basically no time to figure things out. Thanks, Sarah. Really appreciate that stellar timing. Panic mode, fully activated. Rent is literally eating half my paycheck every month. Start desperately posting on every roommate finder site I can think of. Craigslist, Facebook groups, those sketchy apps nobody talks about. Get maybe 15 or 20 responses over the next few days. Most are complete disasters asking weird personal questions. One guy wants to know my cup size in his first message. Another asks if I'm 420 friendly and DTF. Delete those immediately. Then there's this one response that seems almost too normal. Guy named Mark. Says he works in software development. Sends actual references from previous roommates. Doesn't ask a single inappropriate question. Just wants to know about rent, utilities, and house rules. Sounds like he was written by a PR team. My immediate thought is obviously that he's hiding something. Nobody is actually this respectful and normal. Especially not men looking for female roommates. There has to be some kind of catch or ulterior motive. Cassie, who's been my ride or die since college, immediately agrees. She's been through this exact scenario multiple times. Tells me about this guy, Kevin, who seemed perfect for 3 months, then started borrowing money and never paying it back, and another guy who turned out to be stealing her underwear. She insists that the nice ones are always the most dangerous. But here's my financial reality check. Can't afford this apartment alone. Moving would cost me at least $2,000 between deposits and moving trucks. Don't have that kind of money sitting around. Plus, finding a new place in this market is basically impossible. Decide to meet Mark at some generic coffee shop near my building, expecting typical dude bro energy with hidden agenda. Instead, walks in this completely ordinary-looking guy, probably around my age, maybe slightly older, wearing normal jeans and a button-down shirt, not trying to impress anyone or show off. We sit down, and he starts asking practical questions. Wants to know about the neighborhood, commute times to his office, asks about grocery stores and laundry situation, doesn't even glance at my chest once during the entire conversation, which honestly throws me off because that's not normal male behavior. Tells me he works remotely most days but goes into the office sometimes. Says he's pretty quiet, doesn't throw parties. Mentions he has a girlfriend who might visit occasionally. Asks if that's okay, rather than just assuming. My feminist radar is going absolutely crazy. This level of consideration and respect feels manufactured. Like he's performing good guy behavior to get what he wants. Nobody is actually this thoughtful without expecting something in return. But desperate times call for desperate measures. Tell him he can move in at the beginning of next month. We shake hands, and he says he'll transfer the deposit that evening. Sure enough, money shows up in my account a few hours later. Exactly the amount we discussed. No games or negotiations. Spend the next couple weeks preparing for inevitable disappointment. Cassie keeps sending me articles about seemingly nice men who turned out to be serial killers. She's convinced I'm making a huge mistake. Starts planning intervention strategies for when things go wrong. Moving day arrives, and Mark shows up exactly when he said he would. Brings just a few boxes and basic furniture. Nothing excessive or weird. Helps carry some of my heavy stuff without being asked. Doesn't complain about anything or make demands. First few days are weirdly uneventful. He keeps his space clean and organized. Doesn't leave dishes in the sink or bathroom hair everywhere. makes coffee in the morning but doesn't assume I want any, just quietly goes about his business. This is where my paranoia really kicks in. Start testing him in subtle ways. Leave dirty dishes in the sink to see if he gets passive-aggressive. Accidentally knock over some mail near his door. Play music slightly louder than normal during his work calls. His responses are completely not what I expected. Cleanse the dishes without saying anything or sighing dramatically. Picks up the mail and stacks it neatly on the counter. Just closes his office door when I'm being loud. No complaints. Cassie visits after he's been there maybe a week or two. Immediately starts looking for evidence of toxic behavior. Checks his bathroom for red flags. Examines his food in the fridge for clues about his personality. Searches for hidden cameras or weird collections. Finds absolutely nothing concerning. His bathroom is cleaner than mine. Fridge has normal food, plus some fancy coffee creamer. No suspicious electronics or creepy posters anywhere. She leaves frustrated and convinced he's hiding something major. Meanwhile, I'm starting to notice small, thoughtful gestures. He always asks if I need anything when he's going to the store. Holds doors open without making it weird or expecting praise. Offers to help with heavy packages, but doesn't insist when I say no. Remembers that I don't like certain types of music and keeps his volume down. This creates cognitive dissonance in my brain. Spent years believing that men only do nice things to get something. But Mark isn't asking for anything or keeping score, just seems to be naturally considerate as default behavior. Around this time, he mentions his girlfriend Lena more frequently. Talks about taking her to some art exhibition she wanted to see. Mentions cooking dinner for her after she had a stressful week at work. Describes her thoughts and opinions like he actually values them. My immediate assumption is that he's putting on an act. Probably tells her he's single when she's not around, or maybe she's completely made up to make him seem safer. Decide I need to see this relationship myself to judge. Opportunity comes when he asks if Lena can come over for dinner. Obviously, I say yes because I want to investigate. Spend the entire day preparing to catch him in lies or inconsistencies. Plan to observe their interaction for signs of toxicity or control. Lena shows up, and she's genuinely lovely. Not in a fake way or trying too hard way. Just naturally warm and friendly person. Treats me like an actual human being instead of competition. Watching them together completely breaks my brain. They're affectionate without being gross about it. Mark asks her opinion on things and actually listens to her answers. She teases him about something, and he laughs instead of getting defensive. They split cooking duties without negotiating or keeping score. This is not how I thought relationships worked. Everything I knew about men suggested they either ignore their partners or control them. But these two seem to genuinely enjoy each other's company. No drama, no passive-aggressive comments, no power struggles. Lena tells stories about Mark helping her move apartments. Mentions how he drove 4 hours to pick her up when her car broke down. Describes him meeting her parents and being nervous about making good impression. Talks about him like he's actually her partner instead of her burden. After she leaves, I'm sitting in my room completely confused. Either Mark is the world's most elaborate manipulator, or maybe my entire worldview about men might be somewhat flawed. Neither option feels comfortable to consider. Tom, this guy I've known since college, comes over maybe a week later. Total contrast to everything I've been observing with Mark. Immediately starts complaining about his job, his ex, his roommate. Makes jokes that aren't funny and expects me to laugh. Comments on my appearance in ways that make me uncomfortable. When Mark comes home from work, Tom gets weird and competitive. Starts bragging about his salary and his car. Makes subtle digs about programmers being antisocial nerds, clearly trying to establish dominance or something equally ridiculous. Mark's response is to be politely friendly and then excuse himself. Doesn't rise to the bait or engage in whatever contest Tom thinks they're having. Just treats him like a normal person and goes to make dinner. Tom keeps trying to get Mark to argue or prove himself. Brings up politics, sports, work stuff, anything to create conflict. Mark either agrees when appropriate or changes the subject smoothly, refuses to get drawn into any kind of masculine posturing. After Tom leaves, he immediately starts texting me complaints about Mark. Says Mark is probably gay because he didn't engage with the competitive behavior, calls him fake nice, and insists he's definitely hiding something, suggests I should be worried about living with someone so weird. This interaction really highlights the difference. Tom represents what I always thought was normal male behavior. Aggressive, self-centered, always trying to win something. Mark represents something I didn't think existed. Calm, secure, doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Cassie still insists this is all an elaborate setup. Sends me screenshots of true crime documentaries about charming psychopaths. Keeps asking when I'm going to discover his real personality. Refuses to consider that maybe he's actually just a decent person. But I'm starting to question my own assumptions. Lived with this guy for months now without a single major issue. No yelling, no manipulation, no weird demands or boundary violations. Just consistent, respectful behavior day after day. Meanwhile, observing his relationship with Lena continues to challenge everything. They have disagreements sometimes, but handle them like adults. Never heard them screaming at each other or slamming doors. They talk through problems instead of creating drama. Lena gets offered a job opportunity in another city. This is where I expect everything to fall apart. Based on my experience, this is when men usually reveal their controlling side, either forbid her from taking it or break up rather than compromise. Instead, they spend weeks discussing options rationally. Mark researches the cost of flights between cities. They talk about timeline for potentially moving together. Consider pros and cons without anyone getting emotional or manipulative. Eventually decide to try long distance for a while. Mark seems genuinely supportive of her career advancement. Helps her research the new city and job market. Talks about visiting her and planning their future together. This completely demolishes my understanding of how relationships work. Always assumed that men sabotage women's success out of insecurity, or that couples break up rather than handle inconvenience. But here's evidence that mature adults can actually solve problems together. Lina moves away and Mark handles it with grace. No dramatic meltdowns or guilt trips. Just misses her and plans visits. Continues being the same considerate roommate as always. Around this time, I meet David through work. Normally would have dismissed him immediately. He's polite, asks thoughtful questions, seems genuinely interested in my opinions. Everything my brain categorizes as too good to be true, to be. But living with Mark has slowly shifted my perspective. Maybe some men actually are raised to be respectful and considerate. Maybe healthy behavior isn't always hiding toxic intentions. Maybe I've been self-sabotaging by assuming the worst. David asks me out, and instead of making excuses, I agree. Spend the entire first date waiting for red flags. He pays attention when I talk, asks follow-up questions, doesn't interrupt or try to one-up my stories, walks me home without expecting anything. Second date, he remembers details from our previous conversation, brings up a book I mentioned wanting to read, suggests restaurants based on dietary restrictions I mentioned. Again, no pressure or expectations beyond enjoying my company. My friend's reactions are predictably skeptical. Cassie insists he's love-bombing me to lower my defenses. Says the nice behavior will disappear once he has me. Predicts he'll reveal his true nature within a few weeks. But watching Mark's continued relationship with Lena provides counter-evidence. They've been together over a year now, and he's still considerate. Visits her regularly, supports her career, treats her well. No dramatic personality changes or revealed toxicity. Lena eventually moves back, and they get engaged. Mark asks if she can stay at our place while apartment hunting. Offers to pay extra rent for the inconvenience. Continues being respectful about shared spaces and household responsibilities. Planning their wedding becomes this beautiful, collaborative process. They make decisions together without fighting or manipulation. Both families seem to genuinely like each other. Everything feels healthy and supportive rather than stressful. Meanwhile, my relationship with David continues developing. He meets Mark and Lena, and they all get along naturally. No competition or weird dynamics, just four adults who enjoy each other's company. David's behavior remains consistently kind and thoughtful. He has flaws and bad days like everyone else, but handles stress and disappointment maturely. Doesn't take his problems out on me or expect me to fix everything. This gradual shift in my worldview feels seismic. Spent so many years convinced that all men were fundamentally selfish. Built entire identity around protecting myself from their toxicity. But evidence keeps contradicting those beliefs. Cassie eventually meets David and grudgingly admits he seems okay. Still insists I should keep my guard up, but can't point to any specific concerning behavior. Just maintains that men always reveal their true selves eventually. Tom, meanwhile, continues being exactly who he always was. Still complains constantly and makes everything about himself. Recent girlfriend broke up with him for no reason. Blames feminism for making women impossible to please. Contrast between Tom and the other men in my life becomes stark. Tom represents the behavior I expected from all men. Mark and David represent something I didn't think existed. Mature, secure, capable of genuine partnership. Mark and Lena's wedding is beautiful and drama-free. Two people who clearly love and respect each other. Families who support their relationship. Celebration focused on joy rather than performance or show. They find an apartment together, and Mark moves out. Thanks me for being such a great roommate. Offers to help me find someone new or cover extra rent while I search. Leaves the place cleaner than when he moved in. Living alone again gives me time to process everything. Year of observing healthy relationship dynamics up close. Seeing men behave with consistent kindness and respect. Watching problems get solved through communication rather than conflict. David and I continue growing closer. He meets my family, and they actually like him. Not because he's charming or manipulative, but because he's genuinely interested in getting to know them. My relationship patterns start changing naturally. Don't spend energy looking for hidden motives or testing his loyalty. Can have disagreements without assuming he'll become abusive. Trust his words because his actions consistently match them. This shift affects other areas of my life too. Less defensive and suspicious in general. More willing to give people benefit of the doubt. Better at recognizing actual red flags versus imagined ones. Cassie struggles with my changing perspective. Our friendship becomes strained because she's still stuck in old patterns, continues dating men who treat her poorly, then uses those experiences to validate her beliefs about all men. Try to share what I've learned, but she's not ready to hear it. Insists Mark was performing the entire time we lived together. Predicts his marriage will fall apart within a few years. Refuses to consider that some men might actually be decent. Meanwhile, Mark and Lena settle into married life happily. Occasionally meet up for dinner or group activities. Their relationship continues being stable and supportive. No dramatic personality changes or revealed toxicity. David eventually meets my extended family. Handles my skeptical relatives with patience and humor. Doesn't get defensive when they ask probing questions. wins them over through consistent, respectful behavior. We move in together after dating for over a year. Process feels natural rather than scary. Don't spend energy preparing for inevitable disappointment. Just excited to share daily life with someone I trust. Living with David confirms what I learned from observing Mark. Healthy men don't change personalities once they have you. They continue being considerate and respectful, because that's who they actually are, not a performance. Looking back on this whole journey feels surreal. Started as confirmed man-hater, convinced all males were toxic, ended up in healthy relationship with genuinely good person. Transformation happened gradually through consistent evidence. Cassie and I eventually have honest conversation about our friendship. She admits she's jealous of my happiness, but still believes I'm being naive or lucky. Can't accept that her approach might be self-defeating. We agree to disagree and maintain friendship, but our dynamic has fundamentally changed. Can't unsee what I've learned about relationships. Won't go back to assuming the worst about everyone. Tom continues his pattern of failed relationships, blames women for being too picky or damaged by feminism, refuses to examine his own behavior or attitude, represents everything I used to think was inevitable. Mark and Lena celebrate their first wedding anniversary, invite David and me to small dinner party, evening filled with laughter and genuine conversation. No drama, competition, or underlying tension. Their marriage remains stable and happy. They support each other's goals and dreams, handle challenges together rather than creating additional problems, prove that healthy relationships actually exist. David proposes after we've been together almost 2 years. Moment feels right, rather than pressured or manipulative. He's not trying to lock me down or control me, just wants to build future together as equal partners. Planning our wedding becomes collaborative process. Both families blend together naturally. No major conflicts or power struggles. Focus stays on celebrating our commitment. Sometimes wonder what would have happened if I'd never lived with Mark. Might have continued sabotaging relationships out of fear. Probably would have driven David away with suspicion and testing. Could have missed out on genuine happiness. Feminist beliefs haven't disappeared completely. Still advocate for women's rights and equality. But understanding has become more nuanced. Recognize that gender generalizations hurt everyone. Learn to distinguish between toxic masculinity and healthy masculine behavior. Can identify genuine red flags versus imagined threats. Developed better boundaries and communication skills. Stopped assuming malicious intent behind every kind gesture. Live with him for a year. No drama, no games, no manipulation, just respect, kindness, and stability. He marries the sweetest girl I've ever met. I finally meet someone like him, too. Not all men are monsters. Turns out the monster was my own prejudice.
Me, 44, Chief Operating Officer at manufacturing company in Milwaukee. Salary $215,000 plus equity. Been climbing corporate ladder for 19 years. Company is called Great Lakes Manufacturing. We make industrial machinery components. Family-owned business gone public 10 years ago. 520 employees, $180 million revenue. Make parts for heavy equipment, construction machinery, agricultural implements. Old school manufacturing, been around since 1968, traditional culture. I joined as operations manager 6 years ago, promoted to COO 2 years ago. First woman in C-suite in company's history, proud of breaking that barrier. Report to CEO, manage day-to-day operations, oversee production and logistics. Also sit on executive committee with CEO, CFO, VP Sales, VP Engineering. CFO is guy named Robert Shun, 51, been with company 14 years. He's the financial conscience of the company, conservative with money. Always pushing back on spending, questioning investments, demanding ROI analysis. Drives the other executives crazy with his caution and scrutiny. CEO is Tom Williams, 62, founder's son, more focused on legacy than numbers. He wants to grow, expand, modernize, make his mark on family business. Robert is always the one saying we can't afford that, or the margins don't work. Tom finds him frustrating. So do I. Feels like he's blocking progress. When I arrived 6 years ago, company was stuck in old ways. Outdated equipment, manual processes, resistance to technology. I've been pushing modernization, automation, efficiency improvements. Robert has questioned every initiative, demanded detailed financial justification. Not because he's against progress, but because he wants proof of return. It's exhausting. Every proposal requires 50-page financial analysis. Can't just say this is better, have to prove it saves money or increases revenue. Year 1 as COO, I propose $8 million equipment upgrade for main production line. New CNC machines, automated quality control, modern tooling. Would increase capacity 30%, reduce labor costs, improve precision. Robert digs into proposal, comes back with concerns. Your ROI calculation assumes 85% capacity utilization. We're currently at 62%. We'll grow into the capacity. Demand is increasing. Our order backlog doesn't support that assumption. This is speculative. You're being too conservative. Manufacturing is evolving. And we have $12 million in debt. $8 million investment would strain our credit line. Tom sides with me. Robert, we need to modernize to stay competitive. I agree we need to modernize, but timing and scale matter. This is why we hired a COO to make these operational decisions. Robert backs down, but makes his objections clear in the minutes. We proceed with equipment purchase. It's exciting. It's progress. Year 2, equipment is installed. We're ramping up production. But demand doesn't materialize like I projected. Capacity sits at 68%. We're paying debt service on $8 million loan, but not seeing revenue increase. Robert mentions this in executive meetings. Utilization is below projection. It takes time to build customer base for increased capacity. How much time, and what's the plan to get there? We're pursuing new clients, expanding sales territories. He's skeptical. I can see it, but I'm COO. Operations is my domain. Meanwhile, I'm noticing Robert's leadership style. It's problematic. He's direct, sometimes blunt, questions people's assumptions publicly. In executive meetings, he'll challenge proposals, poke holes in logic. Not just with me, with everyone, VP sales, VP engineering, even CEO sometimes. It creates tension. People feel attacked, defensive, uncomfortable. Start documenting these instances, building case about his behavior. Undermines colleague proposals in public forums. Creates hostile environment through aggressive questioning. Demonstrates lack of emotional intelligence in executive interactions. Month 18, I propose another major initiative, $5 million facility expansion. Adding 40,000 square feet, new production lines, hiring 35 workers. Demand is finally picking up. We need capacity. Timing is right. Robert reviews proposal. Comes to executive meeting with spreadsheet. This expansion assumes 15% revenue growth for next 3 years. Industry growth is 6%. Where's the additional 9% coming from? We're taking market share from competitors with our modernization. Our market share has been flat for 18 months despite equipment investment. That's because we're capacity constrained now. Expansion solves that. No, we're utilization constrained. We're running at 68% of current capacity. He projects the numbers, shows we be at 52% utilization with expansion. This will be financial disaster. We can't service more debt at these margins. Tom is wavering. Robert raises valid concerns. Robert always raises concerns. That's all he does, blocks progress. I'm trying to prevent financial mistakes that could threaten the company. You're being overly cautious. Manufacturing requires bold moves. Meeting ends tensely. Tom tables the decision, wants more analysis. I'm frustrated, furious actually. Robert is blocking me again. More than that, his behavior in the meeting was aggressive, borderline hostile. The way he challenged my projections, questioned my competence publicly. Start talking to Tom privately. Robert's leadership style is toxic. He undermines the executive team, creates negative culture. He's just doing his job. Financial oversight is CFO's responsibility. There's a difference between oversight and obstruction, between questioning assumptions and attacking people. Plant seeds about Robert being the problem, about his toxic masculinity. Month 20, another incident. Robert questions VP sales forecast. VP sales projects 20% revenue growth based on new client pipeline. Robert asks for details, conversion rates, deal sizes, close probabilities. VP sales gets defensive. You never believe our forecasts. I believe forecasts based on realistic assumptions and historical data. You're calling me a liar in front of the executive team. I'm asking you to justify your projections. That's my job. Meeting deteriorates. VP sales storms out. Robert sits there calmly. This is perfect example of his toxic behavior. I document it thoroughly. Talk to VP sales afterward. Robert's behavior was unacceptable. He makes me feel like I don't know my own business. That's classic undermining, toxic leadership. We should address this. Build coalition. VP sales is on board. VP engineering is sympathetic. We're all tired of Robert's constant questioning, his negativity, his resistance. Month 22, bring formal complaint to Tom about Robert's leadership. Multiple executives have expressed concerns about Robert's behavior. He creates hostile environment through aggressive questioning and public challenges. This is affecting team morale and our ability to execute strategy. Show him my documentation, quotes from meetings, pattern of behavior. Tom is reluctant. Robert is thorough, maybe too thorough, but effective. Effectiveness without emotional intelligence is toxic leadership. We need CFO who supports executive team, not one who attacks us. Tom agrees to address it, has conversation with Robert about leadership style. Robert apparently pushes back. Financial oversight requires asking hard questions. If executives can't defend their proposals, that's not my problem. This makes it worse. He's refusing to acknowledge the issue. Month 24, 2 years as COO, company financials are getting concerning. Revenue growth is flat. We're at $178 million, down from $180 million when I started. Debt has increased from $12 million to $25 million due to equipment and operating expenses. Profit margins are compressed. Cash flow is tight. Credit line is maxed. Robert presents quarterly financials to board. His presentation is stark. Revenue decline of 1% year over year, below industry growth rate. EBITDA down 15% due to increased debt service and underutilized capacity. Current trajectory is unsustainable. We need strategic course correction. He recommends pausing all capital investments. Focus on operational efficiency. Also recommends evaluating recent capital expenditures for ROI failure. This is direct shot at my equipment purchase. He's blaming me publicly. After board meeting, I confront him. You're undermining my leadership. I'm reporting financial reality. The board deserves accurate information. You made it sound like my initiatives are failing. Your initiatives are failing. The numbers prove it. How dare you? I'm trying to modernize this company, and I'm trying to keep it solvent. Those are different goals. Month 25, I make my move, go to Tom with ultimatum. Robert has to go. His toxic leadership is destroying the executive team. He publicly blamed me in board meeting for financial performance. This is untenable. Either he leaves or I leave. Tom is conflicted. Robert is right about the numbers, though. Numbers aren't everything. Leadership and culture matter. In manufacturing, numbers are almost everything. Margins are thin. You hire me to transform operations. I can't do that with CFO blocking me. Put him in an impossible position, new COO versus long-term CFO. But I'm a change agent. I'm the future. Robert is the past. Tom makes decision. I'll talk to the board about transitioning Robert out. Month 26, board meeting. Tom proposes replacing Robert as CFO. Leadership style concerns, not aligned with company's growth vision. Cultural fit issues with executive team. Board is surprised. Robert has been there 14 years, well respected. One board member asks, "What specifically is the concern?" Tom presents my documentation. Pattern of aggressive behavior. Creates hostile environment through constant challenging of proposals. Undermines executive confidence through public questioning. Another board member, woman named Patricia, asks, "What does Robert say?" He believes he's doing his job, providing financial oversight, but his approach is damaging to team dynamics and morale. Vote is 5-4 to allow Robert's termination, very narrow margin. Robert is given severance package, 6 months pay, asked to leave immediately. He cleans out his office quietly, doesn't make scene, very professional. On his way out, he says to me, "The numbers don't lie, you'll see." What's that supposed to mean? Cryptic bullshit. Good riddance. Month 27, we hire new CFO, woman named Michelle, 38, from consulting background. She's modern, collaborative, emotionally intelligent. Everything Robert wasn't. First meeting, she's positive and supportive. Let's talk about growth opportunities. Finally, a CFO who understands we need to invest to grow. I repropose the facility expansion, $5 million. Michelle is receptive. I see the strategic vision. Let's find a way to make this work financially. Music to my ears. This is what partnership looks like. We present to Tom. He approves. Expansion moves forward. Borrow another $5 million. Start construction. Hire contractors. Feeling vindicated. Month 30. Expansion is underway. Budget is ballooning. $5 million becomes $6.8 million. Construction delays. Material costs increased. Labor shortages. Typical stuff. Michelle is concerned, but not blocking. We'll manage through this. Meanwhile, orders are soft. Demand hasn't materialized like projected. Still running at 65% capacity on existing equipment. Expansion looks premature. Month 32. Expansion complete. New space is ready. Equipment being installed. Total cost, $7.2 million, 44% over original budget. Debt is now $32 million. Monthly debt service is crushing cash flow. We're burning through reserves. New space sits mostly empty. No orders to justify the capacity. Sales team can't close deals. Competition is fierce. Margins are compressed. Michelle presents quarterly financials. They're bad, really bad. Revenue down 8% year over year. EBITDA down 35%. Cash position critical. We're projecting $4 million cash shortfall in next 6 months. Tom is pale. How do we get here? Series of investments that haven't generated projected returns. She's diplomatic, doesn't blame me, but reality is clear. Month 34, emergency board meeting, company is in crisis. Can't make payroll next month without emergency financing. Bank is reviewing our credit line, considering calling the loan. Board brings an outside consultant to assess situation. Consultant's report is brutal. Traces problems directly to my decisions. Equipment purchase in year 1. Projected 85% utilization, actual 64%. ROI timeline was 4 years. At current utilization, it's 9+ years. Facility expansion. Projected 15% revenue growth. Actual 8% decline. Total capital deployed. $15.2 million. Total revenue increase. Minus $14 million. Every decision I made, every initiative I pushed, laid out as failure. Consultant's conclusion. Operational strategy was not aligned with market reality. CFO's concerns were well-founded and should have been heeded. Board member Patricia speaks up. This is damning. Where was financial oversight? Our CFO raised concerns and was removed for being difficult. who recommended removing him. Tom has to admit, I made that decision based on leadership concerns. Raised by whom? COO felt his behavior was toxic and undermining. Patricia pulls out old board minutes from when Robert was CFO. He projected exactly this scenario, warned about overinvestment, recommended pausing expansion until utilization improved, was explicitly overruled by operational leadership. She's looking at me, whole board is looking at me. He was blocking necessary modernization. He was providing accurate financial analysis that was ignored. Another board member, where is Robert now? He was terminated 8 months ago for leadership style issues. Leadership style? He was right about everything. The vindication is setting in. Robert was right all along. His aggressive questioning wasn't toxic, it was necessary. His resistance wasn't obstruction, it was protection. And we fired him for doing his job correctly. Board votes unanimously to remove me as COO effective immediately. Your decisions have put this company at risk of insolvency. You removed the executive who was providing accurate warnings. You prioritized personal conflicts over fiduciary responsibility. Walk out that afternoon with severance, 3 months minimal. Michelle lasts another 2 months before being replaced. Board brings in turnaround CFO, older guy with bankruptcy experience. He immediately contacts Robert, asks him to consult on restructuring. Robert agrees, comes back as highly paid consultant to fix the mess. His first recommendation, halt all capital spending, sell new equipment at loss. His second recommendation, lay off 80 workers, close the new expansion space. His third recommendation, renegotiate debt with bank to avoid bankruptcy. Everything he would have prevented if we'd listened to him. Company survives, but barely. Takes 3 years to stabilize. Downsized to 410 employees. Revenue back to $165 million, profitable again. Robert becomes permanent CFO again. Board begs him to return. He does, with significant raise and seat on board of directors. I'm unemployable as COO. News spread about the disaster. Executive who fired CFO, then proved him right by nearly bankrupting company. That's my legacy. That's what searches show. Apply for operations roles. No one will touch me. You dismissed financial warnings and lost the company $15 million. You fired CFO for being right. That shows terrible judgment. 6 months unemployed. Have to take operations manager role. Small manufacturer, 50 employees, $68,000 salary, third of what I made. From COO of 520-person company to manager of 50-person operation. From $215,000 to $68,000. From respected executive to cautionary tale. 1 year after being fired, run into Robert at industry conference. He's presenting on financial oversight in manufacturing. Sees me in audience, nods acknowledgement, continues presentation. His talk is about importance of CFOs challenging assumptions. Financial oversight isn't about being liked, it's about being right. Good CFO will make executives uncomfortable with hard questions. That discomfort is not toxic leadership, it's fiduciary responsibility. He's talking about our situation without naming it. Everyone knows. After presentation, he approaches me, I expect gloating. How are you doing? Working as operations manager at small manufacturer, rebuilding. He nods. I heard. I'm sorry it ended that way. Wait, he's apologizing? He was right about everything. You don't need to apologize. You were right and I was wrong. I was right about the numbers, but I could have been more diplomatic. No, you were doing your job. I just didn't want to hear it. He's quiet for a moment. You know what I learned from this? What? That being right isn't enough if you can't convince people. I had the data, but I couldn't get the executive team to listen. Maybe if I built better relationships, found better ways to communicate. This is insane. He's taking responsibility for my failures. Robert, you gave clear warnings with solid analysis. I called you toxic and got you fired because I didn't like hearing no. That's all on me, not on your communication style. He shrugs. Maybe, but I'm working on being more collaborative. Company is better now. We're stable. growing sustainably, still asking hard questions, but try to do it more constructively. We talk for a few more minutes. He's gracious, professional, kind. Everything I accused him of not being, he actually was. His toxic behavior was just competent financial management. His aggressive questioning was just thorough analysis. His undermining was just protecting the company from bad decisions. And I got him fired for it, because he made me feel stupid. 2 years later, I'm 46, still at small manufacturer, making $72,000. Great Lakes Manufacturing is thriving under Robert's renewed leadership. They're profitable, debt is down, expanding carefully with his oversight. Tom retired, Robert is interim CEO, board is making it permanent. The guy I fired for toxic leadership is now running the company, and doing it better than anyone because he understands the numbers. 3 years later, see article in industry publication. CFO Robert Shun turns around Great Lakes Manufacturing. After near bankruptcy, company returns to profitability under disciplined financial leadership. Article quotes him. Financial discipline isn't popular, but it's necessary. Good leadership means making decisions based on data, not emotions. Sometimes the person saying no is the most important person in the room. He's celebrated now, seen as hero who saved the company. After being fired, brought back, vindicated completely. Comments praise his integrity, his courage to speak truth. Rare executive who prioritizes company over personal popularity. I'm never mentioned in the article, but everyone in industry knows. I'm the COO who ignored him, fired him, nearly destroyed the company. While he was right all along, warning us, protecting us, doing his job. Now I'm here, 47, making $72,000 at small manufacturer, managing operations for company that could never afford my mistakes. Watching Robert's career soar while mine ended. All because I called his competence toxic, called his thoroughness aggressive, called his protection undermining, when really he was just being a good CFO. And I was being a bad COO who couldn't handle criticism. That's the truth, painful truth, expensive truth. Cost Great Lakes $15 million and nearly destroyed them. Cost me my career, my reputation, my executive future. Cost 80 workers their jobs during the restructuring. All because I fired the person who was trying to stop me from making catastrophic mistakes that he predicted with precision. Because he understood numbers, and I only understood ego. That's what I live with now, at 47, at $72,000. Former COO who fired the CFO for being right when I was wrong, and learned too late. That toxic isn't the person asking hard questions. It's the person who can't handle the answers. That was me, not him. And everyone knows it now, especially me, every day at my small manufacturing job, where nobody questions my decisions. Because the decisions don't matter enough to require a Robert Shun to tell me no and save the company from me.